Well, let's get
I mean, bad.
well, Shay, we got a couple games to break down, so let's get into leave the rumor mill and get into the what actually matters, and that's the games here on Saturday. And believe it or not, buddy, we've got us. It's essentially an SEC West elimination game because we got Ole Miss at Auburn
Hmm.
in the evening here, and these two currently second and third in the SEC West, and neither one. I think Auburn controls their own destiny. They'd have to win out obviously and beat Alabama in the final game. Ole Miss is right there
Hmm.
with them. They obviously need to win out, but they need Alabama to lose once more. So if you lose here on Saturday, there's no chance that you're going to make Atlanta. But I think both these fan bases, Shane, could not be happier with where their teams are at this season. Hell, I mean, Auburn is looking like one of the surprises in the SEC, surprises in the country. So a lot on the line. The
Hmm.
Auburn Tigers coming off a bye. This is yet another opportunity. I believe Auburn's faced two top 10 opponents already, come up short against Penn State and Georgia. But hell, you almost won that Penn State game, and I think Georgia is the best team
Hmm.
in the country, so there's no shame in losing to them. But man, another big opportunity for Brian Harsin to come out here and beat a top 10 opponent, this time at home at night. Crazy things happen on the plains. This is the team that we're having the hardest day of time determining who's gonna win. And right now, I believe Auburn is a 2.5 point favorite over the Ole Miss Rebels. So I don't know what's your take on Auburn, who's again coming off a bye, and yet we got Ole Miss on the other side that has played like a murderer's row in the SEC. This is a banged up football team, and I know they've got arguably the Heisman frontrunner in Matt Corral, but they could be coming into a
Yeah.
buzzsaw this weekend here on the Plains, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Think about Auburn, man. They're like an unsung hero. I feel bad because I don't think we talked enough about Brian and the boys here because here you are going into November and you're controlling your own destiny. That's easy to say in September, but we're going into November. Win this damn thing out, and you're going to an SEC
Mm-hmm.
championship. I mean, that is realistic. They're like the Kentucky of the West,
Right.
man. If you ask me, I don't think they get enough respect, and definitely not from me. And everybody talks about Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin and all the cool things that they've been able to do over there, and the tweets and Katy Perry and all that cool stuff. But nobody's talking about Auburn just putting that damn hard hat on and going to work. And that's exactly what Brian and the boys have been able to do. So, yeah, I think that's perfect. I mean, honestly, just don't have the expectations. Nobody has expectations on Auburn right now, maybe outside the fan base. But right now, they go into these games. Most of them myself included, have expected them to lose, and yet they keep winning. So who cares? Who cares how pretty or ugly it is? As long as you got the victory, then hell, we'll keep talking about you. So I'm just impressed. Out of all the coaching hires, he was the least sexy in my opinion, and just what he's been able to do to that program. I wouldn't. I wish I was an Auburn fan because I'd be on cloud nine right
And
now.
I think you can make the case too, Shane, that if Auburn can get the ground game going with Tank Bigsby, with Hunter the
Mm-hmm.
freshman, Sean Shivers, that is the perfect recipe for keeping Matt Corral on the sidelines, chewing up the clock, limiting Ole
Yeah.
Miss's possessions. And, we've seen Ole Miss have trouble with that against Alabama, where, they were able to stifle Tennessee and LSU in recent weeks on the ground. I think that's going to be the key to the game. If Auburn can run the football, they have an excellent shot at, I don't even know if you could call it an upset, but of just, staying atop the SEC West and dethroning Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the key to the game. What do you think?
Yeah, doing it up front. I mean, the recipe's out there, like you said. You look at that Alabama game. You want to beat Ole Miss, make them one dimensional. Don't let them run the ball. If they can't run the ball, then they have trouble passing the ball. That's the recipe right there. These guys are overconfident right now. My kid would kill me if she heard me say that word, but I stole it from her a couple years ago. It's probably not even a good word anymore, but I just tell you right now, everybody's talking about, everybody's on Ole Miss bandwagon right now. It's just a fun place to be. And like I said, nobody thinks that. I'm telling you right now, man, Auburn's dangerous, and they're. I think what gets them is they're balanced. They're finally starting to get a little bit in the passing attack, and I think that's key. Staying balanced. But it's about the trenches, man. And I watched that Alabama Ole Miss. I watched it again the other day, and they just couldn't do anything with the ground, and that made Lane and the boys one dimensional, and that's what you can't have. So that's what you need. You need Ole Miss to come in super confident, and you just need to just smash them in the mouth. That's how you beat them.
Now on the flip side, Shane, if you're Ole Miss, do you put it in Bo Nix's hands to try to beat you? Because Bo Nix, it seems like he's a different quarterback at home. He's certainly capable of beating a defense like an Ole Miss, or because I think you kind of have to load up in the box. But then again, Bo Nix, we've seen him. He's beaten LSU basically single-handedly. That certainly seems like a dangerous proposition for Ole Miss, a defense that has corralled LSU and to an extent Tennessee in consecutive weeks. It looks like a much improved unit, but maybe you just get into a shootout style game here. Certainly you got to like Ole Miss odds if that's the way it goes, because they got Matt Corral and so many great running backs. Yeah. But can Ole Miss win a low-scoring game, or do you think they really need to put the pedal to the metal here on the Plains?
Well, see, that's why Lane is a hell of a coach, Mike, because you could come in with whatever game plan or script you want, but next thing you know, you find yourself playing his game. And his game is scoring points. His game is trading blows, because he knows he's got the better offense. He knows that if this thing gets in any type of shootout, then he's going to win. So, yeah, I think Brian, I think Auburn's going to have a plan, obviously, when you're playing Ole Miss, but don't think that for a second that Lane doesn't have a counter, because his counter is to get this ball moving, to just keep your defense on the field and exhausted and wore out, and just keep attacking. It's an attacking offense. So you do that by just sticking true to your roots, man. Running the ball, passing the ball, just keep the chains moving it and doing it as fast as you can.
Lane, you guys had an incredible number of highly coveted recruits in here on Saturday. Picture perfect weather day. Just curious in broad terms what you thought about that day, the atmosphere that was inside the stadium for those kids to see, and so on.
Yeah, I don't notice, very much in the game with that, good or bad. So it was good to meet with some of them afterwards and hear their reaction. You could just, see it on their face and how they talked about, wow, what an awesome game. The crowd was awesome. Really could see myself playing here. So that was really good. And like I said, that's how it's supposed to be. So we need to keep doing that and having atmospheres like that, just like we need to keep making sacks and making touchdowns. So it all goes hand in hand. We have a very high expectation here. Like someone said this morning, you guys are bowl eligible. I didn't even realize that. It's not the way we think. And, honestly, trying to change the way a lot of people think. So see if we can get there.
Since you brought up the Heisman, I'll ask, do you have any opinion or, thought as to why so many, especially in the national media, don't seem to want to include Matt's name in the Heisman conversation at this point?
Well, I think I can understand that. I mean, I'm not being critical, but it's hard for anybody to watch all the games. They play at the same time, all that and stuff. So I think a lot of those people read stats, and so they don't know who's injured, who he's not playing with, what he has to do, how he has to make plays. So that's just part of it. And, the thing that usually has to happen is you got to keep winning too, which sometimes out of his control, if you're not playing good defense or something. So there's a lot of variables that go into that. Does not make it necessarily every year the best player in college football.